Jesus said, "Behold, I come quickly." 2,000 years ago, his words came to pass. AD 70, Jerusalem surrounded by armies, the temple destroyed, sacrifices ceased, the end of the age. So where are we at on the prophetic timeline of history? Jesus said, "All authority in heaven and earth has been given unto me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations," and that we have been made kings and priests to reign here on earth. The Revelation Red Pill, the kingdom of God is now. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, now and forever. Amen.
Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. I'm one of your hosts, Michelle. It's a Wednesday, so it's Revelation Red Pill Wednesday. So excited for tonight's show. Who is the beast of Revelation? Who, what, where, when, how, and why? Last week we did Who is the Whore of Babylon? If you missed that episode, you want to go back and watch it because it was riveting. I enjoyed every moment of it. So much there, so many nuggets, and it's not what you think. So if you guys have been tuning in this entire time, Revelation Red Pill is your jam. You're like, I've been here for all 91 episodes. We're on episode 92. And you're super excited and boom, great. You need no, catching up. But then there's some who you maybe started watching episode 85, 86, and you're still trying to figure out what it's all about, right? We're going to play a clip, a section, a good portion of an interview that Tucker Carlson did with a man named Andrew Isker. I don't know how to say his last name. It's Isker, Isker, whatever. And he's a pastor, formerly from, I think, Minnesota. Now he's moved to Tennessee to kind of start his own town of conservatism, which is amazing. And I saw a clip that Tucker put out. It was like a 60-second clip, and they mentioned dispensationalism. And I thought, don't get me excited, Tucker. So I decided I have to watch the whole episode. So last night I did. And I was hoping that the whole episode would be Revelation Red Pill, like the whole thing. It was still a very riveting episode. It wasn't all Revelation Red Pill. However, there's a nugget that we're going to play for you guys tonight that all but proves that Tucker Carlson is Revelation Red Pilled. And obviously his guest, Andrew Isker, is as well. And both of them said this, and you'll hear this in the clip when we play it in a little bit, that they feel like, I'm paraphrasing here because what I call modern end times theory is dying out. It's a dying out theology that people, it's a hopeless theology that, hopeless for the world, but hopeful for yourself, that Jesus is just going to come and suck you out of here and rapture you away while the world goes to hell in a handbasket. And it's not biblical. And they talk about that. So, what is victorious eschatology? What is eschatology? Eschatology is the study of the end times, of the last things, supposedly. I don't even think that is that's not even important. If you don't know what happened at the end of the age during the transition from the old covenant to the new covenant, what's happening right now will not make any sense to you, and you won't have any authority, or you won't be able to utilize the authority that you have. So why do we a lot of times go back to what's in the Bible and what happened in that generation from Jesus to the destruction of the temple and the ending of the sacrifices and, millions of Jews dying and all of that? Like, you never heard that history. And I say this a lot of times on our show, and yes, we have a very panting dog here. Leah took for a walk. Not knowing the early church history from that generation and what happened with Nero persecuting Christians and killing them and, all of those things. Not knowing that history is as if you say, I'm an American, but I don't need to know American history. I don't need to know about the Revolutionary War. I don't need to know about the Civil War. And so tonight, we're going to do a little bit of a refresher for those of you that already know, but refreshers are helpful. And we're going to get into who was the beast that John was writing about in the book of Revelation. Was he writing for something 2 or 3 or 4 or 5,000 years in the future about some AI or, a chip in your arm? There's been a lot of guesses in my lifetime as far as what who the beast is, what the mark of the beast is. And I don't know if we're going to get into we will get into the mark of the beast tonight. It's included. I guess we could have put that in the title. But a lot of questions that you guys have, I think are going to be answered tonight, as was, who is the whore of Babylon last week. Now, before we get into all of that, I want to apologize for not letting you guys know ahead of time that we would not have a healing for the fractured soul. Sometimes a show just doesn't come together and we're just like, you know what, we're going to take the night off. That's what happened last night. So we didn't do a healing for the fractured soul. So if you couldn't find it, it's not just you. We just did not do one, but we will be back next week with one. Leah and I have been talking about different things. And do you guys remember, while Leah's pulling up her tabs, and Leah, you can jump in here anytime when you're ready. Do you remember several Fridays ago when I told you that people are going to start manifesting? And I hope that anybody that's watching here doesn't mind. But I have seen that happening in people's lives, other people's lives. And I'm increasingly aware that word from the Lord was accurate. And so I want to keep kind of reminding you guys of that so that if you find yourself in that situation, like some people that watch our show have found.
Yeah, we got a text message from somebody.
Where I'm trying to be very,
I'm just saying.
Don't say anything else.
I'm not.
I just want to protect everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's not anything to be ashamed of, first and foremost. But when you have things that go on in your life when you're dealing with other people, it could be, I have friends that I have found manifest demons, and I have had to pray for them from afar. And that's happened over the past year or so. We've talked to you guys about how, different parts of our circle have gotten a little bit smaller. And it doesn't mean that everything's a boogeyman, everything's a demon, whatever. This is a word that God has given me specifically for this season. And so I just want you guys to be aware that when things are outside of like, wait, this just doesn't make sense, the devil is trying to do something. And so you just take authority over it in the name of Jesus. Leah was asking me yesterday, like, how do we present this to people if they find that they're in a situation where there may be demonic activity? Well, what do you do? And I said, Leah, not that she was asking me what to do, but how do we convey it? Like, we know how we handle it, but like, how do you convey that into words? You take authority over the situation and you rebuke the devil. And this is what I told Leah. I said, Leah, we aren't a deliverance school. My job as resistance chicks is not to teach you guys how to do deliverance. Okay. That's a whole nother thing. That's somebody else's deal. But what I can tell you is that the word that God spoke to me unequivocally, that right now we are in a season where you're going to see demons manifesting. So whatever it is, however you feel led to do that kind of research or tutelage or study or whatever on your own, first and foremost, you have to know what you're dealing with, and you take authority in the name of Jesus. And so we've had people coming to us. That's why I'm presenting this. So if I've had multiple people coming to us since I mentioned that, there's not just one, there's been several where I'm like, okay, this word that I got is accurate because I'm seeing it play out in other people's lives and in their friends and their family and coworkers and so on and so forth on multiple levels, then this is real. And so I want you guys to be aware of the devil's devices and not get caught up in, the devil wants to play games. And the devil wants you to get caught up in his devices, in his, getting you to think it's just the thing. Like maybe you're at work, right? And you got a coworker that is acting in a certain way that they don't normally do, or it's really frustrating or, whatever. And you're trying to address that problem with your coworker. Cause I have this with a friend of mine, okay, and her work, right? And I'm like, listen, it's just demonic. Don't get caught up in the emails or the text messages or the things that person is trying to get you with. You just take authority over it in the name of Jesus in that situation. So be aware, be mindful, be prayerful. And, you know, if you have to do some studying and some YouTubing or whatever, I don't care. Go ahead. We're not entering into that realm specifically. Maybe at some point we will. But we're not doing that right now as far as giving you guys the instructions. All I can do is don't shoot the messenger, is say, this is what you're probably dealing with. And then ask God to show you how to take care of it. Jim says, let's go beast hunting. Now, Jim knows, because Jim's been with us for a while, and Jim even has written a book that has not been published yet, but he's still working on it. The beast in Revelation would, I'm sure, be featured in his book on Josephus at the time. And so I'm super excited about Jim's book, and we're all going to be praying that he can get the money to get that book published. So let's see. Sherry says, not bad. Was hoping 2025 would be better than 2024, but it is fine. Oh, somebody was asking, you know, here's the thing. I do believe that 2025 is going to be better than 2024 for those of us that are seeking him. It may start off a little bit rough. Okay. But I think that especially for those of you that have stayed with us, I feel you're probably on the same trajectory as we are, that God is moving and shifting things, which sometimes can be uncomfortable, but you have to trust that, okay, God's got this. That's what Lee and I have been talking about so much lately, just trusting that he who began the good work in you is faithful to complete that work in you. Right? So I have the timestamp, Leah, ready to go. So you don't need to be looking for that. You want to start with the Tucker?
Yeah, let's start with Tucker.
All right, let's go. All right. So this is Andrew Isker. I literally have no idea how to say his last name. And we're just going to play probably about 10 or 15 minutes of this. Some of the conversation goes, Tucker was so rude in this episode. I have to tell you, I was slightly irritated with Tucker throughout, because Andrew kept trying to go in this direction. And every time, like he did, it wasn't that Tucker was doing this on purpose. His brain was going a million miles a minute, and he would interrupt him and take Andrew on. And Andrew did, you know, to his credit, kept bringing it back. So we're going to play some of it. It'll get a little bit off track of the dispensationalism and end times discussion, but it gets back on track. So that's the timestamp that I chose. You'll see it kind of meander for a second, and then it comes back.
And what Jesus does is he comes and he takes the world back from Satan and from all the demons that ruled over the ancient world. And now he's reigning over heaven and earth. That's actually like the book of Revelation. Right. That's actually like what's going on in that book.
The much maligned book of Revelation.
Yeah. Like I know you had John Rich on, you know, last year, and he's talking about dispensationalism and things like that. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be in Tennessee. I need to meet him and talk to him about this.
Did you?
I haven't. No, I have no way of getting in touch with him. Maybe after this, if you used to watch it. Yeah.
He's a good man.
Oh, I mean, he was like the soundtrack of my youth of country music. Like he wrote all those songs, right? So on that basis alone, right? But where he's talking about like dispensationalism and what has happened in American Christianity for the last 130 years, how it's actually a novel new thing. And for me, it was like, yeah, I looked at that. I mean, I remember, growing up, and that's just everything, like Left Behind and the Rapture is coming and all of that. And
so I missed all of that.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a thing. Like especially, and of course, like I'm very critical of it. But like these are the best people in America that believe it. Like the people that have like 6 Trump flags on the back of their truck.
Oh, I totally agree.
Like they also believe that, well, the rapture is coming tomorrow and we need to be ready for it. And so anytime I'm critical of it, I'm like, okay, I'm not critical of the people. Like there's not a moral defect that they believe these things.
I totally, first of all, thank you for saying that. Second, I feel what you're saying, especially with evangelicals. I look at these, greaseball preachers who I honestly, I find disgusting. And then I see the people who go to their churches and I'm like, oh, I love you. You're exactly my kind of people. Yeah. You're the most decent people in this country. You're trying your very hardest against headwinds that are so unfair. And you're doing a great job anyway. And I just love that. I really mean it. I love them. So I never want to criticize.
Ever. Yeah.
Right. Because
Yeah. And so whenever I'm critical of that theology, I'm like, I have to make sure people know, like, I'm not criticizing you because you're great, awesome people. Like even when I first went to the town in Gainesboro before we decided to, before we made our move, It was right after the hurricane, which it wasn't far from there. And this is a town that, like, they don't have a whole lot. The median income is not very high in this town, but I'm driving around in every gas station.
Where is it?
Gainsborough, Tennessee is in Jackson County. It's like north central Tennessee.
Okay.
And yeah, and
so every gas station
has like signs up like, hey, we're going to Western North Carolina to go help out. And it's like people that don't have a whole, like they're taking their time and what little money they have to go help people. And meanwhile, the Biden administration is sending billions more to Ukraine and to Israel and everything. And they're taking their time. It's like, these are wonderful people.
They are. And I will say for Trump, whatever people think of Trump, I know Trump well enough to have talked to him about this kind of stuff and, away from cameras. And his affection, love, gratitude toward those specific people is totally real.
Yeah.
And you can argue about whether, which policies serve those people best or whatever, but leadership begins with love. And if you don't love the people you lead, you'll mistreat them.
And you see it reciprocated, right?
But it's totally real.
Yeah.
And completely real, and it's emotional.
Yeah.
And he's like, I love those people.
Yeah.
And he means it.
And
he eats McDonald's in private.
Yeah, that's right.
So that is, I just want to say that because I know that for a fact. A lot of politics is obviously fake. But that specific part of Trump, like loving people like that, oh man.
Well, and it's the people that are, the most maligned in our country. The only people you can make fun of are like rural Southern Appalachian people, right? That's free game. You can criticize them all you want and mock them. Like, Jimmy Kimmel can make fun of them all day long on his show. No other group of people can you do that for. And they're the people that have been dispossessed of their country the most. And this is a big reason why we moved to this place is these are the people that are hated. I want to go live with them.
Yes.
I want to be around these because they're great people.
They're
wonderful people.
And cheerful too.
Yeah. Wonderful people.
Yeah. I live in a place with a lot of people like that. And, every third person has a child or grandson who's died of a drug OD and like there's no year-round work and there's just a lot of problems. And these are like, you can pull into their driveway on a Sunday and they'll have a 6-pack and they'll give you 2 of them. I mean, they really are just the most generous, kind, hilarious, wise, just good people. Yeah. The best that this country's ever produced, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not from those people at all. So I'm like coming at this like, wow, these people are incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think about that, right? And I think about the theology that has been that has shaped their outlook, and it's understandable because like you're especially in the midst of like serious decline. It's like, well, actually, it's sort of attractive to have this eschatology where everything is coming to an end, right? You can understand why people would eat that up. Mm-hmm. But the people that actually built America, right? The Puritans and all of the settlers of this country. You think of even like the founding generation. That theology did not exist yet. That wasn't until the middle of the 19th century that it came into being. Like they were actually optimistic, right? They viewed this continent as a place for Christians to build, to grow, to have a future.
What an interesting point. Well, I've never thought of that before. So dispensationalism, for those who haven't followed it, is normally criticized and defended because of its interpretation of what biblical Israel is now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a super electric topic, both
very
theologically and politically.
Absolutely.
And people get utterly hysterical about it and start calling you names or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's that. But you're saying that a deeper problem with it is that it makes people pessimistic.
Yeah.
Can you flesh it out a little bit?
Yeah. So I think if you go your entire life believing that any minute the world is going to come to an end, that I'm going to float up into heaven and my clothes will be here and everything we're gone. It's done. It's over. Right. Well, that takes a people that ordinarily are very low time preference, that build things for the future, that delay gratification, all of those kinds of things. And it flips it around and makes them very high time preference, where it's like, well, if the world's not going to be around tomorrow, why invest in anything for today? And you can even see this in terms of architecture,
Yes.
right? You think of the buildings that churches have. Well, they're in strip malls, or they're, just they're kind of
garbage.
ugly.
It's
Yeah,
garbage.
yeah. And you look at the buildings that
It's like a former pet store in the strip mall.
yeah. And you look at the buildings that Christians had before this was the dominant theology, and they're gorgeous. They're beautiful, and there were very poor people that made them, like you said earlier.
I know.
And it's like that right there, like you see it tangibly. That and you think about that in terms of all of life.
That is so smart. And what was the phrase you used? Low time preference?
Yeah, low time preference.
What does
So it's
that
like an
mean?
economic phrase, right? So, right, your preference in terms of time.
Please respect my ignorance.
Yes. It just means that you're going to wait longer for things. It's sort of like the marshmallow test with little kids, right? Where,
Yes, yeah.
Where like in 5 minutes you'll get 2 marshmallows, or you can eat this one right now, right? Well, the child that says, "Oh, I'll wait, I want 2," right? Well, he's going to go on and have more success and so forth, versus the one that immediately grabs the one and eats it, right? Well, that's low time preference. It's people that will delay gratification, who will save and invest and build things for the long term, for the future.
And for future generations.
Yes.
That plant oak trees.
Yes.
Who plants oak trees?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're going to in Tennessee. We want to bring back the American chestnut in Tennessee. We want to bring that back.
Are you putting in evergreens, please?
Oh, I think everything. Yeah. I mean, there's pines. Yeah. There's
please don't
oak
neglect
trees.
the pine.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I know it's a fast growing tree, relatively speaking, but it's
beautiful.
It's the answer. And cedars, if you can, if you have water.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll be able. I mean, there are some cedars.
Okay.
Yeah, now we're going to get into
since you're a preacher and Old Testament scholar, what was the inside of the temple clad with?
Cedar. Yeah, from Lebanon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
God Himself said cedar.
That's right. Yeah.
An accident? He was pretty specific about it.
Yeah. It smells great. I mean,
maybe there's a reason my sauna has cedar on the inside.
That's right. Just
I always tell my kids that.
Just think of it like the temple.
It's my cedar church. Yes.
That's right.
No sacrifices, however. Well, here's something you may not have known. This network almost didn't exist.
Wait a minute. Big jump.
But so your point is that dispensationalism not only has specious theological elements, which I think very obviously it does.
Yeah.
By the way, the whole theology was like laid out in the end notes. It's not actually in the Bible.
No,
it's like interpretation in the version of the Bible.
John Nelson Darby and Cyrus Schofield, and there's. I mean, they'll claim that they're antecedents from the early church. Like, well, this guy believed in something like the rapture, and it's like, well, it's always very, like you said, specious.
Yeah, that's my read as a non-theologian, but it does seem incredibly silly, but sincere. So okay.
Yeah, people. Yeah, exactly. People sincerely believe it. So
100%.
Mock them.
A lot of people I really like and respect believe.
Yes.
So I just want to say that. But you're saying that the cost is even deeper because it changes your worldview and makes it very difficult for you to engage in the labor of, like, for example, loving people around you and building something beautiful, which are also Christian imperatives. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. And it also, so it forces you into an immediacy, right? We got to do everything right now because there isn't going to be a future. Yes. Right? There's not going to be, I mean, and I heard this all the time growing up. Well, we're not going to be around. We're going to be raptured. So why plan for the future? Why build things for the future? Why
heard that growing up?
Oh yeah. This was just everywhere in evangelicalism.
Did you grow up in that?
Yeah. I did. And I remember in college when I was first getting into more historical theology, or thinking like, what did people believe before the 19th century about things? and it's
for
like,
the first 1800 years.
Yeah. What did they act? Well, there were various different eschatological schools. Like there's all sorts of different views of how the end works. But when I first get into that, I'm thinking like, I don't know if I actually believe in the rapture. And I remember being in college and in campus ministry and telling people this. I'm like, I don't know if I actually believe in that. I mean, it was like I just uttered the greatest heresy of all time. Like I could have said, I probably could have said, well, just denied the Trinity or something, right? And they would have been like, oh, well, that's interesting. But saying, I don't think there's a rapture. What? Are you serious? Right? Like that is central doctrine to many Christians. And and it has this deep, emotional connection. Because I mean, if you've grown up your entire life hearing this, and it's just assumed by everybody, right? It's hard to break out of that, even though the everybody of the historic church of millions or billions of Christians, right? It's actually a tiny minority in the history of the church that has believed that, but presently, it's a majority of evangelicals.
Yeah, it seems like that theology is dying. That's